My boss stole my $1 million idea, fired me, and told everyone I was replaceable. I spent 4 years making sure his biggest client learned the truth. The day I was fired, my boss smiled. He actually smiled. I appreciate everything you've done here. But you're replaceable. 10 minutes later, security escorted me out. The worst part wasn't losing my job. It was watching my presentation being projected onto the conference room screen as I left. My presentation, my research, my strategy, 3 years of work. My boss, Victor, stood in front of 20 executives, presenting it as his own. Nobody questioned him. Why would they? He was the director. I was just another employee. My coworkers texted me later. Congratulations! Your presentation was incredible. None of them even realized I hadn't been there. For weeks I was furious. Friends told me to sue. A lawyer reviewed everything. Victor had been careful. The employment contract gave the company ownership of everything created while I worked there. Legally, he'd done nothing wrong. Morally, he'd stolen years of my life. I almost gave up. Instead, I accepted a junior role at a much smaller competitor. Lower salary, long hours, no prestige, but one huge advantage. Nobody underestimated me. Over the next 4 years, I learned everything Victor never bothered to understand. He knew how to sell ideas. I learned how to build businesses. I studied client behavior, supply chains, risk management, negotiation. Every mistake Victor had hidden with confidence, I quietly mastered. Eventually, I became director of strategy. Then came the opportunity. Victor's company and mine competed for the largest logistics contract in the country, worth over $400 million. Victor was leading their proposal. I was leading ours. He didn't even recognize me at the first meeting, until I introduced myself for just a second. His confidence disappeared. Then he laughed. I see you're still in the industry. I am. Good luck. He genuinely believed he'd win. Then I remembered something. Victor always relied on the same trick: beautiful presentations, weak execution. I knew exactly how he'd structure his proposal. Because I'd built the template years earlier, instead of copying him. I designed ours to expose every weakness his plan would create. Not publicly, not by attacking him, simply by solving problems before the client even realized they existed. 3 months later, the client invited both companies for final presentations. Victor spoke first, exactly as expected. Confident, charismatic, polished. Then it was my turn. I never mentioned Victor. I never mentioned my old company. I simply explained why certain logistics models fail under real-world conditions. Every example happened to match Victor's proposal perfectly. The client's executives began asking him difficult questions. Questions he couldn't answer, because he'd never understood the work behind the slides. Only the slides themselves. Then came the biggest surprise. The client requested independent audits of both proposals. My company welcomed it. Victor's company didn't. The audit uncovered something unexpected. Victor had been exaggerating performance numbers in multiple contracts for years. Not illegal enough for prison, but dishonest enough to destroy trust. His company lost the contract. 3 months later, Victor resigned. Not because of me, because once people started asking questions, everything else fell apart. A year later, I was invited to speak at an industry conference. As I walked backstage, Victor approached me. He looked exhausted. I know this was you, I smiled politely. No, it was you, I shook my head. No, Victor, it was your own work. I just stopped protecting it. He stared at me for a long time, then quietly asked, did you spend 4 years planning this? I answered honestly. No, I spent 4 years becoming someone you could never replace. Then I walked onto the stage. The audience applauded, not because I beat Victor, because I'd finally built a reputation no one could steal. Looking back, people call it revenge. I don't. Revenge would have been ruining his life. I simply stopped saving him from the consequences of pretending someone else's talent was his own. Sometimes the coldest revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's succeeding so completely that they finally have to face the truth about themselves. If you were in my position, would you have exposed Victor sooner, or would you have waited until the truth revealed itself naturally? Did I get justice, or did I take my revenge too far? Comment below what you think.